Hi, I'm Jerry Varmash, internationally known impressionist for decades, hundreds of voices to his credit. What a thrill today to welcome Rich Little to Hear Now the News. He is with me right now. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Jerry. It's good to come out of retirement and start working again. I'm going in the horseshoe.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled. You won't know this, but I certainly do. We met backstage. You were performing at the Concord Hotel in the Catskills in the late 80s. I think it was 1989. Someone like me, I'm fascinated with people who do impressions. I dabbled for like a second. Huge fan of your work. You're still hitting the stage, right? You're performing in Las Vegas?
Yeah. I've been performing almost all my life. Started when I was a teenager, and I've worked most of the casinos in Vegas, and then I retired about a year ago, and I had a terrible fall, and I recovered from that, and now I'm going back to work at the Horseshoe.
What was it to, after retiring, to decide you wanted to go back? Was it you had to get back to perform for audiences? Was it like almost like an addiction that you had to have that fix?
Well, there was a demand. People kept coming up to me and saying, "When are you going to start performing again?" And the Horseshoe came along and made me a good offer. And as long as I've got my health, which seems to be pretty good at the moment, I'm going back to work on the 6th of April.
Oh, that's great. And for people
Monday, I'm going to do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Oh, that's great. So for people who are either in Vegas or planning to get to the area, I mean, that's a destination visit to see you.
The show's going to be at 6:30 on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And wow. I'm looking forward to it because I've kind of missed performing, and I didn't think I was going to perform anymore. And as I said, there was a demand for me to get back into the race, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to give it a shot anyway.
Yeah, I was happy to see that you're still doing interviews as well, and to swoop you up and bring you on for a bit. I was like thrilled to do that. So we're talking about your career at this point, but let's go back a bit. How did you get started as an impressionist?
I started imitating teachers at school, and I graduated early. The teachers didn't really like it because when they would ask me a question in class, it was usually the wrong answer. And what was worse was it was the wrong answer in the teacher's voice. And so they put me at the back of the classroom and never asked me anything again, which was fine. So I sailed through up until college, never being asked anything because they were afraid I was going to imitate the teacher.
Did you have shyness? A lot of comedians have shyness, and especially doing other voices, you can use that as a way of overcoming it.
Yeah, no, I was never shy. I can remember when I was, I was in the kindergarten. I would get up in class and start talking, and it didn't make any sense at all. I would just ramble on and on and on, and everybody started laughing because it didn't make any sense. And I would just keep going until the teacher had to put a muzzle on me and just sit down and keep quiet because I just kept talking.
You were a ham even at those early years. I'm sorry.
I wasn't doing impressions then. I was just, I don't know what I was doing really, but the teachers got quite a kick out of it. But they didn't like to hear the wrong answer in their voice. That bothered them a lot. So I just I didn't say much,
And were you a hit with the students? Did
Oh
you?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sure.
the kids loved it. They would have a lookout at the door, and when they saw the teacher coming, I would take my seat, and because I was imitating the teacher, and I would take my seat quickly, and then the teacher came in to the class and started talking, and uh, and did what I was just doing 5 minutes earlier, and everybody was in hysterics. They were laughing, and the poor teacher didn't know why everybody was laughing. No idea.
And when did you know, from being the the class clown, if you will,
Yeah.
to making this a career?
When I got started to get paid for what I was doing, I first started out just imitating at you know um, Kiwanis meetings or Bene Breath or a few local charities, and I never thought of it as a career. And then all of a sudden, I was getting paid $5, $10, and I thought this was great. I never thought there was money in it.
Right.
You know? And so once I realized I could make a few dollars as a teenager, I then really pursued it.
Wow. And you're from Canada. When did you come to the United States, to LA?
I came 64
64.
to do the Judy Garland show. That was the first big show that I ever did, and it went over pretty well because after the Garland show, I started getting offers to do television, and I did a lot of TV in the 70s, a lot of variety shows, and a lot of situation comedies. And then I had a situation comedy of my own,
Mm.
uh, and that was a big step for me. And it just kept growing and growing. And the show that I did was Love on a Rooftop, and I played the kooky next door neighbor who was always inventing things.
Oh,
I invented things that never worked.
well, we're talking about the 70s and variety shows and things of that nature. I have to bring up the Tonight Show. You
Yeah.
were on, I don't know how many, but you were on a lot of Tonight shows. Did
And
you
I
guess most? You
hosted it.
maybe even get, you did, right? That's what I
I
thought.
hosted it 32 times,
Oh, wow.
and that was very important to my career because everybody watched the Tonight Show, and if you went on the Ed Sullivan Show or the Tonight Show, and you were on a couple of times and you did fairly well, everybody knew who you were. You could walk down the street, and everybody would stop you and say they saw you on the Sullivan Show on Sunday. So you could become an instant name if you did well,
Hmm.
by doing one show.
Now, you were on, as you said, between guest hosting and appearing with Johnny
Yeah.
numerous times throughout the 70s. And it seemed, and I've seen this online as well, where people kind of intimate that it just dried up after the 70s. Was there a falling out between you and Johnny?
Well, that's kind of a mystery, because I always thought that Johnny, for some reason, didn't want to book me on this show. But I did a couple of charity events, and he was there, and he was so damn nice to me, I couldn't believe it. And about a year before he passed away, I met him at a restaurant in Malibu, and he was very, very nice to me. And so I kept thinking, well, then why was I no book on the show? I never could figure it out, because you would think if I was a no book on the show, he wouldn't speak to me,
Hmm.
you know. And and there was a book that came out. Well, there's a number of books on Johnny Carson, and I remember there was one book that came out that said that Johnny Carson absolutely detested me, and that was not true at all. Because as I said, about a year before he passed away, I saw him in the restaurant, and he couldn't have been nicer.
So
He,
nothing about your impression, right?
he came up to me and said, "Rich, are you still doing me?" And I said, yes, I am, John. Well, I'm not on the air anymore. I said, that doesn't matter. People will remember you for years. No, no, no. That's it. I said, no, John, they will remember you. And that was 50 years ago. And people still remember him.
Oh, for sure. He's still the
But
king of late night.
he really thought when he stepped down from the Tonight Show that that was it. Nobody would ever remember him, and it was like he never existed, and it just wasn't true.
No,
No,
no.
because he was the best talk show host, I think, of all time. Johnny had that wonderful ability to be likable, funny, come up with lines that out of thin air, and then make things funny, and everybody liked his boyish charm, and he was a very popular guy. As a matter of fact, his his image was a little different, though. Um, if you saw Johnny at a party or anywhere, he wouldn't talk, and he wouldn't have a conversation with you. He sat in the corner and talked to nobody.
Yeah, that's a lot of with documentaries and books that he was shy and I guess even to the point of aloof.
Yeah, yeah. He just would sit in a corner, and people would go up to him, and he would just give one word answers. So there was two Johnny Carsons.
Mhm.
Really. But boy, on the air, he was the best because, as I said, he could come up with something funny, right, and save a lot of people too. I
Right.
remember he used to have people on that were boring and everything, but with Johnny's charm, they looked pretty good. You know,
Yeah.
he
He could do that with even people who were average, people coming
yeah,
on.
yeah. So
And
he could save you. If
right.
you weren't doing too well on the Tonight Show. If he liked you, he could save you.
Huh.
You know,
Yeah.
amazing.
You didn't need any saving though. You were fine on your own.
Well, I guess I don't know. Um, hosting the Tonight Show and doing the Dean Martin roast was probably two of the shows that had a lot of pressure on you. They were popular, and everybody watched the Dean Martin roast and the Tonight Show. So if you did well on those two shows, you were really making headway.
And to get to guest host on the Tonight Show, I mean that's Johnny's blessing, right? I mean he's putting that in. It's him deciding that, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. He was amazing. Um, there's a couple other people that you never got to know, and yet they had a good audience. Trying to think. Dean Martin. Dean could turn it on like Johnny, and but both Dean and Johnny most of the time didn't say anything. I mean, when they were off camera.
Right.
All you get from Johnny, he would drive his own car up to the Tonight Show, little Mercedes, park his car, look over at you and say, "Hi, Rich. How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine, John. Good." And that was it. And then when the show was over, "Rich, yes, John. Goodbye." I often thought it must be funny when Johnny drove his own car by himself after when the Tonight Show was over, and he was driving down the street. I wonder how many people recognized him. I bet he caused a few accidents. He must have. Somebody driving along looked
Right.
over at Johnny Carson. They're
Yeah.
going to go right into a bus.
A lot of head turns. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Because you'd think a guy like him would be driven. have his own driver, you know,
Right.
but he drove his own car.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
mean that's one way where the fame, I guess he didn't let that forever, all of the, the millions and all of the mansions and everything. That was one thing where he was grounded, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was an amazing guy, but off camera, not, not very friendly, really.
Hmm. And yeah, so I was, one of the things I wanted to bring up was, and you did already, the Dean Martin celebrity roasts. You did a slew of those also in the 70s, and you said about pressure. Was that hard to come up? I don't know how much notice you had for each person, and whether you knew them or you didn't, and to take part in that. And was that? I mean, it was an exciting.
What would happen would be they're going to honor somebody, and you may not know them, maybe just from television, and so they would send you a number of jokes, and I would look them over and go, "Yeah, that's pretty funny," and that second one is terrible, and the third one is worse. So you ended up doing maybe two or three of their jokes, and the rest of them was your own material. But of course, if you were an actor and booked on the Tonight Show, you had to go with a wrote because you weren't a comedian, and if you didn't do what they wrote, you know, there'd be nothing to say.
Nothing to say, right? And for the Dean Martin celebrity roast, did you have to? You came up with your own material there?
Same thing.
Same thing.
About about half of it theirs and about half of it mine. Yeah.
Did they pick like which voices you were going to use, or you were on your own?
Um, no, I was on my own, really.
Hmm.
You know, I remember when I did Hollywood Squares, they would always ask me a question about somebody I could imitate.
Oh,
So that was the way I, I presented myself on Hollywood Squares um, because I was doing my own material.
did you like either on Hollywood Squares or on the Tonight Show? You certainly did it. Dean Martin's show, where you would impersonate somebody to their face.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, well, yeah, yeah. On Hollywood Squares, there's usually one or two people in the square that I could imitate, and I remember one time they asked me a question about some star, and I gave the answer, which I knew was right, and the person I was imitating was on the show, and he was in a square, and excuse me,
Sure.
and he and when I would answer the question, he would say, That's not true. That's not true." And I said, "Yes, it is. I read your bio. That's that's true." "No, that's not true."
You have theme music here.
Well, we got two people that are coming to see me at the Horseshoe. Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
we need a few more than two. Anyway,
Another show that was popular and started to put you on the map was the Copycats.
yeah, not everybody remembers Copycats. I thought it was a great show. They had a great budget, and it was shot in England, and the sets were fabulous. And the people they brought over were big names, like Debbie Reynolds and Robert Young and Shecky Green and Raymond Burr. They were all brought over to do the show, and that was a wonderful show to be on, Copycats, because it was nothing but impersonators. And then when they bring a star over like Robert Young, they'd ask him, "Can you do any impressions?" And I remember Robert Young said, I do W.C. Fields. So he did W.C. Fields on the show,
Wow.
because most people you find out do maybe one impression or two. Most people do a bad Jimmy Stewart. That would be the most popular. Um, but it's amazing how many people do impressions, and sometimes they're not very good. But the wife will be behind the guy going, "That was terrible." The star would say, "I want to do my John Wayne
Right.
for you," and the wife behind him goes, "Oh God, no."
What was copycats? Was there any competition? Because everybody's doing, you had all these impersonators on the show.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is that they wrote these sketches that you did, and then the voices they wanted you to do, and there was a little competition because another impersonator would say, "Oh, I do a better impression than him," and there was a little friction from time to time, you know.
Yeah, all the names. You had Fred Travalena, you had George Kirby, Marilyn Michaels,
Yeah,
Frank Gorshin,
yeah. George Kirby.
George Kirby. I said, yeah. I mean, it was great. I don't know if it lasted that long, and I can't find it online. I don't see it on YouTube.
No, I think well, I don't think we've got the people to do it, but it would be more popular today, I think, than when we did it.
Hmm,
Because
interesting.
it was a very good show to do because, as I said, they had a terrific budget and they had great sets. And I remember we had Tony Curtis on, Tony Curtis, and Tony did Dracula. Tony did Dracula, Count Dracula, and he loved it. Oh my God. He went around talking as Dracula for the whole time, the whole week we did the show. If you saw him in the commissary or having lunch, he'd be talking as Dracula. He couldn't come out of the character. Amazing.
We'll get right back to the podcast. But first, I want to tell you about my book, Here Now the News. I spoke to dozens of industry professionals for a fun look at the TV news business in New York. Here Now the News is entertaining and enlightening with dozens of stories about the legends who delivered the news night after night. Pick up your copy on Amazon, available in paperback, Kindle, and my own narrated audiobook version. Were there any celebrities that were not happy about your version of them?
No, I would do Raymond Burr, and I would do that breathing thing that he does. Paul, take this knife down to ballistics and have them check it for fingerprints. And I would do it. I would do Raymond Burr in front of him, and he'd look at me and say, "That's terrible. Give it up."
Now, over the years, I'm sure you have many that are your favorites, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my favorites were Jimmy Stewart. Jack Benny was a sweet, wonderful guy. I loved to do Jack Benny, and he was such a good friend and had no ego at all. And every time I was with Jack, it was a thrill. And George Burns too. He was very, very nice. I remember a friend of mine from Canada at a radio show in Canada, and he came down to the States, down to Los Angeles, and he did an hour interview with George Burns.
Hmm.
And when it was over, it was a great interview because I was there. And when it was over, this friend of mine that did the interview started to play it back and realized that he didn't turn the volume up and there was nothing on the tape.
Oh,
So a whole hour of nothing. And you know what George did? He did the whole interview all over again.
oh, wow. That is terrific.
Another hour. That's what he said. Listen, let's go in the back and we'll do it. We'll do it all over again. And I said, "You got time to do that?" Well, he recorded it, and there's nothing on the tape. And I was very impressed with that. That was extremely nice of him to do that. Jack Benny would do that too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's something to give that much time. Yeah. What
Yep.
were there any impressions that you had a hard time developing, that it took like longer than you thought it would take?
Oh yeah. Well, Johnny Carson took a long time because I couldn't do him, and they wanted me on the Tonight Show, and I didn't want to go on the Tonight Show unless I could imitate Johnny Carson.
Huh.
And so I kept turning them down. And then one day I was out at the San Diego Zoo, and I went out there with some relatives, and we were going around and looking at all the animals. And when we came to the ostriches, that's how I learned to do Johnny Carson, because everything was like an ostrich.
That's great.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to piece it together. Something clicks, and in that case, it was the ostrich.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the strutting like the ostrich.
My favorite person to imitate was this guy.
Ah, is that Reagan?
That's Reagan.
Yeah.
Is it too late?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I love this. I'm glad you're. Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, I loved Ronald Reagan. He, you never thought you were talking to a president when you were with him. He was just like the friendly next door neighbor. When he was president, you never thought, God, I'm talking to the president of the United States, because he was just such a regular guy, and he had such a great sense of humor. I remember one time he said, "Rich, I think you do me better than I do. So when I pass away, I think they should bury you."
So good. It's so good. Your voices are so, like and they sound terrific to this day. I mean, you've been doing these for decades.
Yeah.
That's great.
I have. Yeah, I don't do my teachers anymore. It's so funny. When one of the first bookings I got was in New York at the what is it? The famous. I can't remember the name of the place, but I performed in New York at the Copacabana.
Oh, I was going to say the Copacabana.
Copacabana. And because I'd come down from Canada, I was a teenager still at school, and I imitated all the teachers. And so when I came to the Copacabana and I opened for Mel Torme, and I remember all my teachers, or the ones I imitated, they came down from Canada and sat in the audience hoping I would imitate them. Well, I couldn't do them. The audience would say, "Who are these people?" Didn't mean anything, right? And of course, I didn't do the teachers, and they went back to Canada really upset because they spent the money to fly down there, get a hotel room and everything, go see my show, and I didn't imitate them.
and you didn't do that. That's funny. You were bigger than them now. You had to do a wider array of voices. That's great.
Yeah.
I remember, I again, the little I've done, but I remember one of the first voices I did was in was it high school? I did a history teacher or something, and he would like always do like the aim at the beginning, and I would do that for the students. He would anyway, but I remember doing that, the little things. Um, I also I saw that you were so renowned for doing voices that on occasion you would dub over actors who couldn't finish a film project for one reason or another.
Yeah, either they'd passed away or they were sick or they had laryngitis. And I did a number of that. I
Yeah,
did
any
I did
particular one?
Gene Kelly for a Christmas special. And I did the whole voice because he'd lost his voice. And and they never told the audience that it was me doing Gene Kelly. So no one ever knew.
Huh.
And everybody thought it was him.
Wow.
So sometimes when I would do that, there were the producer would say, "Don't tell anybody that you're doing this." You know, I did David Niven for the Trail of the Pink Panther, and I did his voice. And Blake Edwards said, "Don't tell anybody you're doing it. You're doing it." So I did a lot of that, but I never told anybody that I'd done it.
Wow, that's something that you need it in a pinch, and you can you're doing their voice.
Well, I told Blake Edwards, I said, I did David Niven, a very quiet sort of voice. And I said to Blake Edwards, if David Niven wants, I'll come over to Spain where he lives and follow him about during the day when he goes shopping and everything, and I'll be behind him doing his voice. I didn't get a reply.
You didn't get a reply to that.
But that would have been funny, wouldn't it?
Oh wow, yeah. You could have had cameras there and do a little documentary, a day in the life or something.
Well, you know, he had that Lou Gehrig's disease where he lost his voice.
Oh,
David Niven.
oh, I didn't know. Oh,
So when I dubbed a couple of Pink Panthers, you couldn't tell what he was saying.
oh, wow.
And then I had to put his voice in that when he talked, but the lips didn't match.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult. You know, we spent hours doing that, trying to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
I did Stacy Keach too.
Oh,
When he was doing Mike Hammer,
yeah.
he was held up in England for carrying marijuana, and they locked him up. This was some time ago, and they needed some dialogue for Mike Hammer, and I did it. But it wasn't that great. But I spent a lot of time on it, and it wasn't bad. I couldn't do it for you now at all. I would listen to him say something, and I listened to it about 20 times, and then I would record it. Then we go to the next speech. So it took hours to do.
You didn't keep him in the repertoire?
No.
I didn't know you did Stacy Keach, though. You're saying that. It's funny.
Yeah.
You know what I loved on HBO, the Christmas Carol that you did? That
Yeah.
was excellent.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Done in Canada, and they spent a lot of money on that. And the sets and costumes were great, really great.
That won a lot of awards, right?
It won an Emmy, yeah.
It won an Emmy, yeah. Did it get a Peabody also? Was
Maybe.
I wrong? I thought it did. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But it was, how long did it take you to put that, all of those pieces together?
Oh boy, there's something like 80 different cuts because
Wow.
I'm playing all the parts.
Yeah.
So you had to fit that all together. Because I'm talking to myself. Well, they had a double, and sometimes they used the double from the side, but uh, it was a very. I did Robin Hood too, the
Right.
same way, where I
Mhm.
played all the parts.
Yeah. That was something. Both of those. Yeah, that was great. Um, what a career. I mean, and and you did TV specials, you did shows. I mean, I've seen you were on in the 70s also on like Hawaii 5-0, things like
Right.
that, where you were a bad guy with a gun on a tower, I think it was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was imitating James Cagney
Right.
on top of the oil tanker, and
Right.
what was the movie called?
Oh, was it White Heat?
White Heat. Yeah.
Top of the morning, mom, or something with the mom. What's the line? Um, uh,
Well, the great scene in that movie was when Ma's dead, his mother died, and they all passed it along to all the convicts. And then when Cagney heard it, he went berserk. Totally went off his nut. I mean, he just jumping on the table and everything. It's a good movie. It's pretty violent, but it's good.
and you that was incorporated in that
Yeah,
episode, right?
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you like when you got to expand into like doing these crime and drama types of shows?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did a policewoman where I played a psychopathic murder rapist,
That's all.
and my mother never watched it.
Oh, really?
No, I
Wow.
will not see my son be a murder rapist. I can imitate my mother. Richard, I saw you on the policewoman with, uh, and I didn't like it. You're not that boy. You're a very nice young man, and to play that awful part, and I turned it off.
They but they loved your career, right? They got to bask in your success,
Yeah.
right?
Well, just how Richard Widmark, got into movies by pushing that little old lady down the stairs, and he must have got a lot of flack for that. It's just quite a scene. And then because he was so good in that, he went on to play bad guys
Right.
for about the
Right.
next 5 years, and
Yeah.
then he became a good guy. A lot of actors started their careers playing villains, and then became the good guy. All of a sudden it flipped. Richard Widmark, only thought of him as a nasty villain with a weird laugh, and then all of a sudden now he's the hero.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened a lot. I think Fred McMurray, I guess, was doing a kind of wasn't he? Well, he was a bad guy in some
Oh, yeah,
movies. Yeah,
yeah.
and then he was obviously My Three Sons later. But you do a Fred McMurray? I don't know why I do Fred McMurray.
Uh, Fred, you thought you had a gold, didn't you, Keys? All wrapped up in tissue paper with pink ribbon around. You want to know who killed Dieterson? I killed Dieterson.
Wow,
We did it for money and for a woman,
wow.
something like that. I don't know.
Very good. That's great.
Double
Um,
Indemnity. It's a great film.
yeah, that's a terrific film.
One of
Laura.
the best.
Yeah. Well, we could do this all day. We could just like chat all day like this. I really appreciate chatting with me for a few minutes about your career and resurrecting your career again, and at the Horseshoe in Las Vegas. What are the dates again?
The 6th of April.
6th of April. Okay.
Yeah, that's the first show. And I'm going to be doing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday,
Okay.
6:30.
6:30. Once again,
I'll get my voice better. It's a little raspy today. Um, I have to go through a whole thing to get my voice strong, and that only comes from exercising and doing the scale and singing as Robert Goulet for 2 hours.
Is it harder as you get to this age
Oh yeah,
to
oh
prepare?
yeah, oh yes. Just not. It's a lot harder.
I
Yeah.
know your age. I don't want to say your age, but if you want to say it, but you look great for your age. I tell you that.
Well, in doggy years, I'm only 12.
uh, I look older. Look at this. I got a white beard here. I look much older. Um, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Sorry it took so long.
But if you look older with the beard, why don't you shave it
I
off?
should do that. I dye the beard sometimes, but I should shave it. You're right. That's a very good idea.
Well, I've often thought of that with people with beards, and they make movies and everything, and they have a kissing scene with the leading lady. Wouldn't it be like kissing a Brillo pad? I don't know.
I think so.
It doesn't
Yeah.
seem to bother anybody. But anyway,
A good last thought, I think. Yeah. Again, thank you very much for speaking
oh,
today and joining me
you're
on
working. You're
Here Now the
welcome.
News.
Good
The
talk.
legend himself, it is Rich Little. Thank you again for joining me today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you,
Have a
Jerry.
great day. Thank you. The legend Rich Little joining me today, and it's been a thrill. If you have ideas for who can join me on Here Now the News, you can send me an email at Here Now the News, JB@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time on Here Now the News.